I'm not horrific yet, and I don't trust myself enough to say that I never will be.
Greetings!
Hello!
Fair listener. Welcome to the second installment of the We Read Books podcast.
Yay!
That is Whitney.
And that is Maddie. I know you've missed us since the first episode, and welcome back for the second.
Thank you for returning.
Yes. Thank you.
And you can please and thank you visit our socials at We Read Books Pod.
That's on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Yes. And then our email, if you so feel inclined to ask us questions, give us recommendations, that is wereadbookspod23@gmail.com.
Yes, it is. So now that we've got the business out of the way, hopefully we influenced some of you to read Pride and Prejudice, our last novel that we covered.
Yes, that episode probably could have been so much longer even. We just kind of skimmed the main points.
Yes.
Didn't really even dig deep into, favorite moments, and that book just has a lot going on and a lot that you can appreciate and discuss. So, yeah.
Yes. And eventually, once we've gotten acclimated to creating this podcast, there may be a scenario where we do 2 episodes for a book where we talk about the synopsis and then where we talk more about the little intricacies that we like in a book. Yeah. It could be a thing, but for right now.
Right.
We're just trying to get used to it.
Right. Because obviously we like books. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here doing this right now. We like to talk about books.
That's right.
That's the deal.
And please note that we've already had full conversations about all the books that we've read for this podcast.
So if it sounds like at times that you are falling into the middle of a conversation already in progress,
You are.
But we're inviting you into the conversation.
That's right. It's just too hard once you have read a book with someone else to not be like, what did you think about this?
Right. You gotta talk about it. Yes.
There's some urgency behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for this week, we read Verity by Colleen Hoover.
Way to go, Colleen.
Way to go, Colleen. Fun fact, my middle name is Colleen.
It's a good name.
It's my mom's middle name.
I like that. I like when names are passed down, It's cool. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. And women don't do it a lot.
No, I was going to say generally men do that, but I like to see that. Yeah, I like to see that.
Yeah.
In a woman line.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit like Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Because Lorelai named her daughter Lorelai. I love it.
and yeah, your brain goes, that seems weird, but people do it all the time.
Yeah. There are like generations of men that all have the same name.
There are at least 3 or 4 Roberts in my family.
My grandpa and my great-grandpa were both named Dewey.
I love the name Dewey.
But my grandpa didn't name my uncle Dewey, so he didn't want to pass down his name. But he actually never goes by Dewey. He goes by Gibb because his middle name is Gilbert.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, Dewey,
yeah.
Gilbert is my grandpa's name. It's a very grandpa name.
Dewey. I love it.
But my dad gave my brother, my brother's middle name is James and my dad's first name is James. So my brother is sort of named after my dad. And
yeah. My brother's middle name is my dad's name, which is Robert.
This is how it happens.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that I would want to give my child a family name.
sometimes it doesn't. It's not a bad thing to break the chain and start fresh.
Yeah.
It's good either way.
Yeah. Especially if you have, like, a lot of family members. Like,
yes.
Am I going to have more than one child and then name all of them for a different person?
You don't want people getting jealous. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so tedious.
Exactly. All right. So about this novel,
Ooh.
we like to just give you, published date and just a little bit of information.
Yeah.
So it was published on December 7th, 2018. As we said, the author is Colleen Hoover. And this novel is a New York Times bestseller. So, again, way to go, Colleen.
Good for you.
She's written quite a few books now. So,
several, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's very popular in Book Talk.
Oh, yes.
I see people on TikTok talking about her books a lot.
Yeah.
Not this one. I have yet to see any of them actually talk about this one, but they talk about one called It Ends With Us.
Yes.
Which I have not read. This is my one and only Colleen Hoover that I've ever read.
Me as well. I do have a friend that I work with, Miss Courtney. She has recommended a couple of Colleen's books to me. She enjoys them quite a lot. So
excellent.
Maybe we'll see her more on the pod. Maybe not. We'll see.
Make your assumptions once you listen.
Right. Foreshadowing, perhaps.
Need to get like a clip of the Law and Order. Dun,
dun, dun. That's when you know bad news is coming.
Yeah, it's.
Ooh. We're not saying we hate it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's just start from the beginning.
Yes. So, short synopsis here. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin. When she accepts a job, it's an offer of a lifetime, really. I mean, any writer...
Honestly, it is. Yeah. Honestly, it is.
Especially for a writer that isn't necessarily struggling, but isn't super popular, making a lot of money. The offer she's made it's a good one. It's a really good one.
It's a good one.
So, Jeremy Crawford, who's the husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series. His wife, Verity, is injured, and she's unable to finish her book series, so that's why they're hiring Lowen in to do it for them. She arrives at the Crawford home ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, and she's hoping to find enough material to get her started, get her familiar with the book series, and she uncovers something she does not expect. It's a quite chaotic office, and she finds an unfinished autobiography that Verity never intended anyone to read. So, page after page is a bone-chilling admission, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father, but as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify... Ooh. She recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. Yikes. So, after all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue loving her. Yipes.
That's a big yikes for me there at the end.
Yeah.
How could he continue loving her?
Right.
When he should really just love me.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Even if you're like, wow, she's the worst, it's a sticky situation you don't want to find yourself in.
No. Okie doke.
Yeah.
So, there are not very many characters in this book.
No.
Lowen is our female main character. Jeremy is our male main character. Verity, I guess, is supposed to be the antagonist. And then Corey is Lowen's agent.
Mm-hmm.
And
her
book agent and former lover.
Slash 5-minute boyfriend.
Whatever. And then there are 3 children involved. Jeremy and Verity had 3 kids.
Yes.
Chasten and Harper are twins. And Crew is their youngest boy.
Yes.
So these are the 3 children. So off page, before we come into the story, Chasten and Harper die.
Yes. Both at separate times.
6 months apart.
And both tragically
die. So Chasten dies first. She had a peanut allergy. And
as careful as the parents were,
she was exposed to peanuts at a sleepover at a friend's house.
Yep.
And she passed away of anaphylaxis.
I think in her sleep. So
in her sleep,
no one knew it was happening until it was too late.
Yeah. So horribly tragic. She also had a scar on her cheek, which will come up later.
Yes, that was a defining feature between Chasten and Harper, at least appearance-wise.
Appearance-wise, yeah. Harper she's the second twin. She died 6 months after Chasten in a drowning accident and potentially may have been on the autism spectrum.
Yeah. I don't know that they confirmed it. It was just...
I don't think
alluded to.
Yeah, I don't think she was fully diagnosed, but I think one of her daycare teachers said she may have Asperger's or be on the spectrum. So,
but it didn't really affect her character or anything like that. It was just something that was
just
mentioned.
Said and never brought up again. Yeah.
Other than the fact that she didn't smile much
she was kind of
more withdrawn
or introverted.
But I don't know that those necessarily correlate.
They don't necessarily have to occur together.
Yeah.
And Crew is the youngest. He doesn't really have any defining personality traits that we get to see. He gets injured a couple of times.
Right.
With knives.
Not sure what his fascination is with sharp objects, but...
maybe it's a trauma response.
It could be. Very much so.
So those are our characters. And we will explore the characters as we talk about the plot points of this book.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I have to say, don't like the name Lowen. And I hated reading it every single time her name was said. I just didn't like it.
I honestly didn't mind it. I thought it was different. I was like, oh, Lowen, that's kind of cool,
I think I don't know. I didn't love it. I think partially because a lot of times I have found with contemporary books is that the author wants their protagonist to have a unique name.
True.
So picking a unique name for the sake of picking a unique name is tiresome.
Not because it suits the character so well.
Right.
Understood. Understandable. Absolutely.
But I think I do want to give myself a little bit of a disclaimer. Is not only I obviously have studied literature very minutely for 8 years, but also I write a lot myself. Mm-hmm. So there are certain things that bother me about books that probably bother no one else simply because I'm thinking about it as a writer.
Right. But that gives you a unique perspective thinking about it from both sides.
It does. And then I feel like I'm being really nitpicky, which is true, but I also cannot help it.
Right.
And the Lowen thing was it for me.
Yeah.
Was the first it. But, I like to pick names that make sense for the character. I'm working on a witch kind of novel at the moment, and I picked the names based on what their powers are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So.
Which, a lot of the authors do. J.K. Rowling did that, had the names correlate with who they were as a person. And I appreciate that kind of thing.
I do too. I think it shows a little bit of foresight, and it not only is it that you're doing research and you're making sure your name has a meaning, but it also does kind of help you form the personality of that character.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So in what I'm working on, the main character, I named her Morta because she is a death witch.
Nice.
And mort in Latin literally means death.
Yeah.
So, Morta.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a cool name.
I feel like that's the name of a witch.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
A witch who can literally take the life from your body.
I would want to meet her, but also not at all.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's where that's where I'm coming from perspective wise when I say I hate the name.
First taste was not good.
And I think I may have even Dakota was like sitting. We were in the living room while I was reading, and I'm pretty sure I even like said it to him. This girl's name is Lowen. I hate it, and I think he just laughed. I don't think I wait, I did make a note somewhere in here. Oh yeah, on page 7. Lowen, don't love the name. So, sorry.
You know what? You're allowed. You're allowed to not like it.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll start with the opening scene,
which is pretty jarring and at the same time really doesn't end up having any major significance other than bringing our two arguably main characters together.
Yes.
So
it's a plot device purely.
Yeah. So Lowen is on her way to a meeting with a publisher, in the public transit, walking across the streets, all the danger that goes along with that. And a man steps out on the street a little too soon and gets splatted on is it a bus?
I think it's a large, like a truck or a bus.
Okay, yeah.
Not sure.
So, unfortunately, this poor man seems like splatted on a large vehicle right in front of Lowen's eyes. Like seems as if she's the one right behind him. I dare say she almost wanted to like pull him back, but there was just no time or opportunity.
Right.
And she's covered in his blood.
Yes. She has his blood all over her shirt. And it's graphic. The scene itself is graphic. This is how she describes this man's head being crushed. I closed my eyes before his head went under the tire, but I heard it pop like the cork of a champagne bottle.
Very descriptive. Really
descriptive. We know 2 things here. Number 1, his head is crushed. He didn't just like get run over like in the torso.
No.
It's head.
Yes.
So he's not making it out of this.
No. There's no ambulance help for him.
No. It's dead on arrival for sure. And also, I feel like, because this is all first person perspective, all from Lowen's point of view. Her thinking that the sound of it sounds like the cork coming out of a champagne bottle seems very weird to me. I don't know why it seems weird, but it just sounds like a weird descriptor to place on someone violently dying.
Yeah. And it's, to me, the pop of a cork is like something being released, not something being caved in.
Yeah, and it also, the pop of a champagne cork is, when I think about that, specifically the sound and the action of opening champagne, it makes me think of celebration.
I was going to say, it's celebratory. It's a positive thing, but maybe that's what she was going for. A complete juxtaposition of crushed skull, death, and celebration. And joy in life.
Yes, sure. Maybe. I don't know. We'll never know authorial intent, but it just
irked you.
It seemed weird to me. But
so she wanders away from the hubbub, kind of in a daze.
Yeah, she's got brain matter on her blouse.
Yes. As some people stop at the horrific scene and others apparently just move about their day.
This is New York City, after all. This may not be too far out of the norm.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would ever just, like, get desensitized to seeing, like, literally seeing a head crushed.
Right. I don't think so. Unless you're...
callous as shit.
Yes. You had to have seen that or worse. And even still on such a regular basis that... Yeah. There's no coming back from that.
Right. Yeah. And you always have, like, you know, the people who want to stop and watch the spectacle.
Right.
People who didn't actively see it and don't have, like, blood splatter on their face.
Right.
But want to just, like...
Be part of it.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, she finds, like, a coffee shop, like, across the street.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, she runs into Jeremy
she runs into a man, which we later find to be Jeremy.
Yeah.
But so he kind of escorts her into the coffee shop. They get to the bathroom because she's still kind of in shock.
Yeah.
She cleans herself up. He kindly actually gives her his button-up shirt. Yeah. And
because hers is done for.
Yeah. Oh, done for. Especially if you're about to go to a meeting. Like, yeah. And she cannot miss this meeting. She can't go, nope, my day's been ruined, I'm going home. That's not an option for her. So this man kindly gives her his shirt. They, I think, make some glances at each other or notice that, or at least she notices that he's
hot.
He's a hot looking man. Yeah. And then they part ways, and we're not sure that we're going to see him again, but obviously we're going to see him again.
Right. And I found this scene very odd for a number of reasons. First of all, they go into the coffee shop. The women's restroom is occupied, so he ushers her into the men's restroom, which is fine. But instead of ushering her in and standing guard outside the door, he goes in with her and locks the door.
Yes, I meant to mention that because she notices and is like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, so I am trying to put myself in the situation. I've never seen a human being killed in front of me, nor gotten blood splatter on me. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to say what, if you're thinking clearly, but she seems to be. So we're getting her perspective. She doesn't seem to be wildly out of sorts.
No, just kind of in a state of like, wow,
whoa.
Yeah.
What did I just see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she has enough wits about her to notice him lock the door. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in reality, if someone ushers you into a bathroom and locks the door, you're instantly going to be in self-preservation mode.
Yeah.
And at that point, I feel like I would be like, excuse me, can you please wait outside?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need you to be in here with me, particularly because I'm about to disrobe.
Right.
And you're a stranger.
Right. Now, his intention was obviously to keep people from coming in, and so that he could then, I suppose, disrobe and give her his shirt. But this lady doesn't know that. You're not telling her that. You're just doing it.
and if he had the foresight to be like, okay, that shirt's ruined, she's going to need a new shirt. Mm-hmm. I have on an undershirt so I can take off my button up.
Yes.
He could have just walked in, taken off the button up, said, here, that shirt's ruined.
Right.
Have this. I'm going to wait outside.
I'll stand guard so no one pops in on you.
Why does he need to be standing in the bathroom watching? He watches her do it. Mm-hmm. Why, though?
Because he already feels protective over her.
It's so...
Or something.
It was so strange to me that that's how that played out. Yeah. My guess is that she wanted the sexual tension to be obvious from the beginning.
Right, from the get-go, yeah.
But you can do that with when he's handing her his shirt. Yeah. Maybe their hands touch.
Right.
That's all
noticing
you need.
That with his tank, his undershirt on, that his arms are muscular, or that his hands are muscular, or his hands are soft,
or the smell of his shirt.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
he doesn't need to be in there with her while she's changing and trying to like clean herself up,
right? In
order for that to have come across, he didn't need to stare at her while she was standing there in her bra.
No, absolutely not.
You just don't need
to. No, I think it was supposed to be, he's taking care of her. He's making sure she's okay, that she doesn't need to be alone right now after such a traumatic whatever. But to me, yeah, it's like, if you're going to notice that he locked the door and that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, I would say that would kill any possible attraction rather than accentuate it. But
I agree.
Yeah.
And I have to highlight one thing before we move on.
Oh, of course.
While she's cleaning herself up, she notices two things that I think are really weird in this scenario. She notices how grown out her roots are.
Oh, yeah.
And she also notes that the shirt he gave her is so big and she's going to look so ridiculous in it at her meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And in my thought, if you're distraught enough to need to be escorted to a bathroom and you're cleaning someone else's life's blood off of you, why are you noticing your roots?
Because he's looking at her.
And why are you like, God, this shirt's going to be so big. I'm going to look so stupid.
Right. Rather than, thank God I'm not wearing blood-soaked.
The alternative is you either have to cancel your meeting that your many eviction notices dictate you need to attend.
Yes.
Or you're going to go there covered in blood.
Yes. Yes.
So I just feel like these concerns are very surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And the line is, it looks ridiculous, but at least it wasn't my skull that exploded on someone else's shirt. Silver lining.
Oh, wow.
Huh? Man, this shirt looks bad, but at least I'm not splattered on the street outside.
That seems like a very vast comparison.
This is page 6, guys. This is page 6.
Arguably not painting Lowen in the most caring sort of light, even though she made a note to say she thought it was callous that other people kept walking, but
yeah.
Had he not splattered on her, would she have stopped?
Probably not. Probably not.
That's the first time I thought of that, but yeah, I don't know that I think that she would have. She would have been like, gosh, that sucks, and I hate that for him.
On to the next.
But I gotta go to my meeting.
Yeah.
This is important.
Yeah. So. And which is fine. There's nothing you can do. His skull's already crushed.
Right.
You might as well move on.
Right.
But, I mean, it just, I can't reconcile her being shocked and traumatized with her also being super concerned with, like, her hair and this shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
And then also being like, well, at least my head wasn't crushed.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, I don't feel like normal people's minds would make those connections.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. It
doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to chalk this up to the writing.
Well, I mean, you'd have to.
All of it is chalked up to the writing.
Yeah, you'd have to.
So, Colleen, we're not starting off great here in our relationship. So,
but after all that, Lowen gets to go to her meeting, which I believe is fairly close by.
Yeah.
So she meets with her book agent, and he informs her, "Oh, you're on time. The meeting was at 9. You're on time, but actually, you're early because you're so chronically late that I told you a half an hour earlier than the actual meeting, which is at 9:30."
Yeah. Which. Okay, so that's like a quirky proclivity. She's always late. Okay.
Right.
Which is kind of stereotypical for any, like, artist or...
True. And I don't know that it, again, comes up again. But I guess it informs her as character. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I can't remember so she gets there, she gets into the elevator, and...
Oh, she sees Jeremy. They ride the elevator up together.
I was going to say, who's there but the man from the bathroom? Jeremy.
Yeah. They
ride up the elevator together. Mm-hmm. Don't even remember what they talk about.
I don't know. Because at this point, she does know that... Because when they were in the bathroom, again, with the early sharing.
Yeah.
We have this in P&P.
Yeah.
With Wickham. But in Verity, also, while they're in the bathroom, she tells Jeremy that her mom died last week, and he tells her that, like, a couple months ago, he pulled his dead daughter out of a pond.
That's
after she drowned.
That's right. But they're all right.
But they're all right.
Don't forget that they're all right.
Yeah. So they already have intimate knowledge about each other.
Yes. Which they couldn't have had if he didn't stay in the bathroom and creep.
Yes. See, him staying in the bathroom facilitated the conversation about their dead relatives.
And their attraction. So they have an awkward ride in the elevator.
Yes.
Still not knowing why they're both in the building.
But you as a reader fully know.
Right. You know that we're meeting up. This is coming to something.
Yeah.
So
you already have figured out at this point, like, he's the love interest.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're seeing him again.
Yeah. He's on his way to some meeting, and so is she. I'm shocked that it's the same one.
Yes. So they find out that yes, they're about to be in the same meeting, and then a half an hour passes. I think after that, she meets up with her. Why can I think of the word agent? It just keeps escaping my brain.
Corey is such like an unassuming name. You're not gonna think about a Corey later.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Corey.
Yeah.
Right.
Corey.
I forgot about him.
Right. So Corey apparently is a great agent, but a bad boyfriend.
Yeah. And a subpar lover.
Luckily, we don't get any love scene descriptions with Corey.
Yeah.
Those were left alone. So we're good.
Awkward.
But yeah, so her relationship with Corey didn't work out because Corey just couldn't get past the character that she wrote in her first book that, everybody kind of knows her for. Mm-hmm. He fell in love with the character and then met her and put some of his affection for the character on her. And then when he realized she's not the same person as said character, their relationship just kind of fell apart. Yeah. Well, it didn't completely fizzle as they continued to be physically intimate, but just not romantically. So
yeah, they were no longer in a relationship, but they were just like, meeting up late at night, doing it and leaving, Which
right.
is, hey, you know what, do you? This is all fine.
Right. So we have the meeting.
Yeah.
We get the situation. Jeremy's wife, Verity, who is a prominent author.
She's a bestseller.
Has had an accident. We don't know what kind or what condition she's in, but she's had an accident and is unable to finish her very popular series.
Yeah.
She's written 6 out of the 9 that are planned, so they want to hire Lowen to finish the series for her. Or,
yes.
Well, I think it's maybe suggested that it's with her, but later we find it's for her.
In this sort of scenario, which I did put a note in here, and I'm gonna get on my soapbox one more time. In the book deal is a co-authorship, so it's gonna be Verity Crawford, and Lowen's not sure if she wants it to be Lowen Ashley or a pen name, right? But this is a co-authorship. A lot of the reviews that you read on like Goodreads say that Lowen is ghostwriting these novels, and that is not true. True. Ghostwriter, it's in the name. They are not credited for writing it. It would have just been Verity Crawford. Mm-hmm. And Lowen just wrote them, got 0 credit for writing it, because that's what you do as a ghostwriter. You're paid to write it and then give the credit to someone else.
Right.
Co-writing would mean that Lowen also gets a writing credit.
Yes.
So on her resume, the next book that she pitches to a publisher, she can claim those 3 novels as writing credits. That's the difference. It's a very big difference in the industry.
Yes. I mean, you both get paid, but you don't get any of the acclaim.
You get 0 accolades.
Yeah.
Like, Lowen's not going to get any royalties off of, she's getting an upfront fee for writing these books. Mm-hmm. She's not going to get royalties, but she will be able to claim writing credit. That's the key here.
Yes.
So, just to clear the air, no shade to the people who wrote the reviews, but I'm speaking from within the industry.
Yeah, just clearing up the misconception.
I just want you to be clear. There is a vast difference. Especially for anyone who's considering being a ghostwriter. You're not getting credit, people. Right. You're not getting credit. You get paid, no credit. So if you would rather be a co-writer, co-author, go with that way instead.
Right. So she's given this offer, and she's not sure she wants to take it because it includes a lot of book signings and
she's gonna have to do press
publicity, and that is not something she's done on her own books. That is not something that is comfortable for her.
Right. So when she talks about her own writing up to this point, she doesn't do press, she doesn't do book signings, and she's wildly afraid to interact with people who read her books. I think probably it's the situation like with her and Corey. She thinks that her readers are going to have an expectation of her because of what she has written, and she's going to fall short of their expectations like Corey did, which I just don't think it's that common that people read a book and think the author must be just like this. At least I don't. I don't know that I ever have any thought of who the author is generally.
Right. But they do, I think a lot of people expect the author to be personable or be, you know, a way that, you know, is very polite and pleasing to people and, you know.
Very gracious that you read their book.
Yes. And Lowen's a bit more awkward. When we do find out that her mom passed away recently, we learned that she also had left. This is the first day that she has left the house since that happened. Since her mother died, this was her first day out of the house in
months, because when her mom was terminally ill, lived with Lowen in her apartment in New York City, and so when Lowen was caring for her mom for several months, she didn't leave the house because she couldn't leave her mom unattended. And then she died a week prior to when we enter the story. And this meeting is the first time she's left her apartment. So we don't get a lot of information about her mom, about her relationship with her mom, or about her response to her mom's death, other than that she's kind of relieved that she's dead, which...
And not in a harsh way, just a...
I get what the point of that is. Like, she has been her caretaker for months and months and months, and that is undoubtedly incredibly difficult to care for a terminally ill relative.
Right.
So, of course, there's going to be some relief because now Lowen... Because your life revolves around that ill relative, especially if they need round-the-clock care.
Yes.
Which is why you should hire a fucking nurse. Get a nurse. If you're not a medical professional, I don't feel like you should be the caregiver. I'm sorry.
Properly care for them.
Yeah, this is what I've told my parents. Luckily, Sis is a certified medical tech, and she's going for her RN. So when my parents get old, Sis will be a seasoned nurse and can take care of them. But I would never trust myself to take care of someone who was ailing. Yeah, I don't have the skill set. I'm very squeamish, and I don't have this. I'm not in the medical field even adjacent. I would never be able to do it.
But if you want to be there for them and have them in your home, hire a nurse.
Yes, exactly.
They can be in their home with you.
Exactly. And I know that that's like a privilege some people simply do not have, because that would be expensive. Right. Medical treatment in the U.S. is abysmal and wildly expensive, and insurance almost does nothing to help. So I get that could be Lowen's situation.
Yes. So all that, just kind of adds on to the fact that, yes, she's not very good or not comfortable socially, and so on that alone, she considers not accepting the offer, even though they're offering her...
I think the original offer is $75,000 per book.
Yes.
So what is that? Like $350,000? $250,000?
And then there was talk of, like, you know, after Corey's cut and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We could look it up, but it's a large sum of money for her, but it's not, you know, mind-blowing. It would get her by. She would be able to survive on it, but she's just not sure. So then Jeremy asks to have the room. Yeah.
He wants everybody, because he came with like Verity's agent and somebody from the publishing house. Mm-hmm. So those three are there to, like, offer the deal. And then Lowen is there with her agent. And so Jeremy's like, everybody else, me and Lowen, we're going to talk alone. So everybody leaves. And he tells her to ask for more money. He's like, hey, ask for $500,000.
They're lowballing you. They're giving you the low offer. Mm-hmm. Ask for the highest.
Yeah. So he's telling her that, and she is basically like, I'm not going to take this. I'm turning this down simply because of the press.
Right.
Literally the only reason is because of the press, which I feel like somebody in dire straits probably
going to be evicted from their home. Yeah.
Literally has eviction notices.
Yeah. I don't know that obviously wouldn't have been a wise choice, but fortunately for her, Jeremy says, also tell them no press. They'll agree to it.
Yeah.
And, AKA, because he has the final say, so he'll agree to it.
Exactly. So.
Oh, and he says you can come to the house, stay for a couple days, go through Verity's
stuff,
office, find notes, be as prepared as you possibly can for this.
Exactly. So she begrudgingly accepts this offer.
Of $500,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge sum of money for 3 books.
Yes.
I mean, it probably isn't when you think of the scheme of, like, major publishing houses and major publications, like a best-selling series.
Yeah.
That series is going to bring down way more than that. But for someone in her position, this is life-changing money.
Oh, absolutely.
So good for Lowen.
Even over a 3-year time span, which is
exactly.
This is supposed to take about 3 years. For,
yes.
For each book, whatever.
Exactly. So, Lowen just landed the deal of a lifetime. And she has the option to publish with her actual writing name. She writes under her real name. Her stuff, she writes under her real name. So there's the option to publish under Lowen Ashley or a pen name, which Jeremy comes up with one. I don't know if that's what she actually ends up using. Actually,
did he come up with it?
He did.
Oh,
it's Laura something.
Yes, it's Laura something.
Yeah, he came up with it. I don't remember. He explained
no, you're
why.
Right. Yes.
I just don't remember why.
Yes.
And from here, nothing really happens. So nothing else really happens after this. So she accepts the deal. Everything's blobbity. They sign some contracts. And Lowen basically packs her car and drives to Maine, which is where the Crawfords live. So, yeah, she's on her way north. And she does listen to the first book of Verity's series on the drive.
On the drive, yes.
Yeah.
And I think even after she listens to it, she's not sure how she feels about it.
Yeah, because the thing about Verity's series is it's from the point of view of the villain.
Yes.
So,
which is something different for Lowen. Lowen doesn't write that way.
And most people don't write from the perspective of the villain, actually.
Right. True.
It's an interest. I would read that book.
Yes. I would too. So she gets there. We get acquainted. Mm-hmm. I think we probably, meet the nurse, see Verity.
Yeah, her first interaction is with Crew.
Oh, that's right. So she rings
her window. And
she knocks or rings on the doorbell, and he pops and looks at her through the window. Mm-hmm. Does not open the door.
Nope.
And just runs off.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that kid's a brat.
Yeah. That's her first
Her first impression. Oh, she changes it later. But her first impression is, wow, that was super rude.
Yeah. So Jeremy comes and answers the door.
Yes.
Blobbity. Right.
We meet the nurse. I think she sees Verity, and then she realizes the severity of the situation.
Right.
Because Verity is unable to move on her own. She does not speak.
She doesn't walk or anything.
Yeah. Is she essentially catatonic?
Yeah, essentially. I think they talk about her brain activity being like that of a child. And she's non-responsive almost. She's awake and conscious, but she's just not
reactive.
So, yeah.
And so Lowen's going to stay here for a few days. He shows her. So Jeremy stays upstairs. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs. The one that Verity is in, the one that Jeremy sleeps in, and the one that Cruz sleeps in. So they're all in the upper level. Lowen will be downstairs in the main bedroom, and then she'll have the office as well. So we get to go into Verity's office, which is quite a mess.
It's clutter. There's boxes everywhere. There are stacks of papers, which, I mean, is pretty fair. We are currently recording in my office, and I can relate. My
office has plenty of piles. I call it organized chaos. I know what's in those piles. So, no judgment on her organizational skills. But she's sifting through and trying to find information on the different books, and she stumbles upon an autobiography written by Verity.
Yes. No, this is just the manuscript. This is not published.
Right.
She has found it.
And I would say quite easily. It didn't seem as if she had to
pretty quickly
dig hard.
This is the first time she's been in this office.
Yes.
And she finds it.
Yes. Finds it day one.
Day one, she finds it. So, of course, she's going to read it. Right. The reason she's looking through the stuff is to see if Verity has left any outlines or notes about her intention for the conclusion of her series. Which I think Verity's books are kind of thrillers, not fantasy. But, I mean, I know, like the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Robert Jordan became terminally ill before he finished the series, and he died. And Brandon Sanderson finished the series using Robert Jordan's notes and outlines. Right. It ended, and the things that Robert Jordan wanted to happen happened because he left the notes for Brandon Sanderson. Right. So I think that's what's happening.
That's what she's looking for.
She's looking for outlines. Right.
But she finds the autobiography and ultimately decides to read it because in her mind, knowing Verity, which she can't do because Verity can't speak. Yes. Knowing Verity will help her get into the mind of Verity to finish this book series.
Yes.
Could it be considered intrusive? Yes, but at the same time, she's been hired to do the job, and she's just trying to use all assets available.
Yeah, and at this point, I believe I don't know if it's at this point or soon after that she said she Googled it. And so she knew that Chasten and Harper both died. So Jeremy hasn't just lost one child. He's lost 2 children.
Yes.
And then obviously his wife is completely paralyzed and brain damaged.
Right.
So he's been grief dumped.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes. There's a term that is brought up being called chronics, which are people who are just perpetually have the worst of luck, the worst of circumstances fall upon them and their family. They're just chronically grief-stricken. Yes. Absolutely.
And that is certainly the case for Jeremy. So, I mean, she's probably not going to be like, hey, sit down and tell me about Verity.
Right.
Because he's a grieving father.
Yeah.
So, she finds the autobiography and she's like, fuck it, I'm going to read it. And she does. And I think, at first, she probably was under the impression that this isn't secret, right? She found it in a box, and I think...
with a bunch of other, probably notes or amidst a bunch of other things, there was nothing... it wasn't locked in a box underneath the floorboards.
Yeah, so
it was in pretty plain sight-ish. Yeah. It was buried a little, but it was among the rest.
Among the rest. So she probably wasn't initially thinking it was a secret either.
Right.
We get the first chapter that is from the autobiography. So when we get to the autobiography, then you get chapters of Verity's point of view. Mm-hmm. And these chapters are sprinkled in intermittently, and then after each chapter we kind of get Lowen's reaction to what she just read. Yes. And they get progressively worse.
Right. The first one, it's just accounts how Verity meets Jeremy, and they're also instant attraction.
Yeah, we have insta-love everywhere in this book.
And it's pretty saucy, but I don't think that there's anything particularly jarring.
No.
But as you said, as we continue along, popping in and out of the autobiography and real world, the autobiography gets continually more horrifying as it is read.
Yes. It absolutely does. But I do think, now reading back on my notes, that this first encounter between Verity and Jeremy, now this is written from Verity wrote this, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think we see a lot about Jeremy's character in the way that he meets Verity for the first time. Mm-hmm. And they see each other from across the bar, right? Sure. And she's wearing this red dress. It's so salacious and blah, blah, blah.
And she wore it because of that.
And she's there to attract a rich man, whatever. So he comes over, and she's had, 3 drinks? Mm-hmm. And the bartender comes up, and she orders another drink, but he says, no, she'll just have water. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was,
That's controlling and presumptuous.
It's very presumptuous. And if I want to have a 4th drink, I'm going to have a 4th drink.
Well, and his reason for doing so is because he wants to sleep with her.
Exactly.
And wants her to be sober enough to make the decision.
Exactly. So,
yikes.
Yes. So it's very revealing, I think, about who he is. Mm-hmm. Because, sure, on the one hand, is it good that you're not going to take advantage of a drunk woman? Mm-hmm. Of course. But that's common courtesy.
But it also reveals his designs for the evening.
Exactly.
Which are less chivalrous.
Yeah, because what if she doesn't want to sleep with you sober? What you're doing is presuming the outcome.
Right.
You think
you're assuming she wants to sleep with you, period.
Yeah. You think that the only thing that stands between you sleeping with Verity is liquor. Mm-hmm. And you don't even know her.
Right.
Dude.
Yipes.
Come down a peg.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're hot, but you know what? She is clearly hot too.
Right.
So maybe she wants to pick someone else.
And you could say it's exaggerated, but we've already seen this sort of selfishly chivalrous act with how he assisted Lowen.
Exactly.
So this seems pretty consistent for him.
Yeah, so clearly he is presumptuous and assumes that women want him in some fashion. And what I also found really weird about Lowen's description of Jeremy is that he's very attractive, but she could tell that his attractiveness is a burden to him.
It's hard being this hot.
Stop it right now. I'm so sorry that you're so conventionally attractive. Suck to be you.
Right. Life is so hard.
I'm so tired thinking about that.
Yes.
My English teacher in high school, that was her phrase whenever she was like just over it. She's like, you're making me so tired right now. I love it.
I love it too.
Oh, Swick. She was my favorite.
Awesome.
So yeah, I just felt like I need to say
yes,
that
of
about
course.
Jeremy. But...
No, I think it's a good point to point out because, like I said, it shows a pattern of character.
Yeah, it
kind of validates that the autobiography is probably fairly accurate.
Yes,
but we'll get back to that later. So, I think this chapter is just gets low and like, woof, Jeremy is hot.
Right. Because after they meet, obviously they do end up going and sleeping together, and there's graphic description of the sex that they have.
Verity and Jeremy.
Yeah. So, which, hey, I don't mind a sex scene here and there. Fine. Is it something that I need in a book? No. Honestly, I read very few books that are considered spicy. Mm-hmm. I'm much more of like a straight up fantasy gal, but if it's there, it's there.
Right.
I'm not like, ooh.
Right. Right.
It's just fine.
Right.
But
there can be too much sauce. And there's still...
It is so repetitive is the problem.
Yes.
It's just so repetitive.
And there's nothing emotionally bonding or romantic about it. It's all very...
Right.
Just physically gratifying and graphically detailed. And it's just not necessary. And
you don't pick up any... Like, Verity, in her chapter, she's hyper obsessed with Jeremy. From after their first encounter together, she's obsessed and she doesn't want to be apart from him, and that's it. He's like the end all be all to her at this point, which I think is, some people do have really obsessive behaviors. Mm-hmm. And that's fair. But so Verity's very obsessed. Mm-hmm. And when he goes and works out of town, she does channel her obsession and how much she misses him into writing, which is good. Right.
That's when she discovers, her skill for writing, and that's when she writes her very first book.
Exactly. And what's weird about her obsession with Jeremy is she is so obsessed, but their interactions never seem loving.
No.
There's not really
it's possessing.
It's possessing.
Yes.
They don't seem connected. They don't seem passionate for each other in any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it just seems so superfluous.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when he gets back, he proposes to her.
Yes.
And then
they conceive.
The twins.
Yes, they conceive the twins.
This is where the autobiography really takes a turn.
It got really rough for me. These chapters were continually more difficult for me to read, and just I had a physical gut reaction.
I agree. I was highly, highly disturbed by these chapters, and it did elicit that reaction. Oh, it's snowing.
It is snowing.
I love snow. So I did have the visceral reaction because she's pregnant. She's pregnant with twins. She does not want to be pregnant.
She doesn't want her body to change.
She doesn't want her body to change, and she's physically repulsed by the fact that she's pregnant. She doesn't feel any sort of connection to the babies, and she is wildly jealous of Jeremy being so in love with the babies already.
Yes.
And she hates it when he touches her stomach.
Yeah. And she just fakes being happy for his
happiness.
His happiness. But he doesn't ask her to do any, he just thinks she's happy too, that she's in love with these girls too. But her jealousy especially grows and grows, and her disgust for the babies grow, and even to the point where she makes comments like she hopes that they're premature so that her body doesn't change so much, and
she hopes to have a miscarriage. She
then actually details attempts at miscarriage, which is horrifying.
Yeah, which
and until we get to the dooziest of them all, where she tries to have a,
she tries to give herself an abortion with a hanger.
Yeah, and even the description of that is more graphic than I needed it to be.
It was graphic.
And yeah, it just her callous attitude towards the whole thing, and then hoping that she'd have an abortion, and that her plan was to wake up in bed with the blood so that Jeremy could see it and witness it and comfort her through it, and it's just sick. I almost stopped reading the book after this.
It was very disturbing and gross. I will say that one thing that I did think of as I was reading this portion was, I have heard some people talk about some women don't bond with their child.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel a connection with their child while they're pregnant, and they don't bond with it immediately after it's born.
Right.
Which is real and valid.
Right.
And I did think about that.
That is real and valid.
The problem that I have with the way that kind of topic is handled is that it's said that this is how Verity is feeling, but there's no real exploration of why.
Or where it comes from.
Or anything like that. And there's no trauma response to her. There's no guilt that comes with hoping for a miscarriage. There's no trauma response to the fact, oh my God, I just tried to abort my babies.
Yeah. With a hanger in my bathroom, 5 feet from my...
There's no, reflection on this sort of thing. If you're gonna... It's one thing to write about traumatic events. That's totally fine.
Right.
And not everyone is a good person.
Right.
I understand that. You're depicting someone who's not a good person, and
right.
That's been made clear. But there's a way to handle it to where it makes sense in the story. If there would have been a reason why,
right,
that comes up later.
I mean, her reason why is because they're going to steal the love for her from her. Like, Jeremy's... The reason is because Jeremy's going to love them more than her.
Exactly. That's just not enough of a reason. No. To me.
No, absolutely not. But that's I feel the reason that we're given.
That is the reason why.
And she does actually express it somewhat to him that she's, kind of concerned, but his response is, well, but, love for a child is unconditional. Our love is conditional. And she is just...
She's shocked.
Shocked by that.
Yeah. Yeah. And she also is like, you love them more than me. And he's like, yeah, of course I do. Right. And he's like, and you love them more than you love me. And
right.
She doesn't respond to that, but in her brain, she's like, no.
Right. And at first, I think either at first or after, whatever, in that conversation, he says, well, that kind of love, it's a different kind of love. Mm-hmm. But
yeah,
that's not enough for him to basically say, there's enough love for all to go around. It's a different kind of love, and this is going to be great. That's not good enough for her.
No,
so.
It isn't.
And the result of the hangering, that sounded gross, resulted in a scar on one of the children's cheeks.
Yeah.
Chasten
has the scar on her cheek, and the doctor says it's like tissue.
Fibrous tissue from the womb or something.
But Verity, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows what happened there.
Yeah. So then, she still continues to not bond with the children until she has, well, actually, no. There's more horrifying things to come before the thing I was about to say. So, first few weeks, Jeremy's home to help her with the children. It's exhausting. They're getting up at all hours, just like you would with a newborn. And then Jeremy goes back to work and she's by herself. And actually, shock, she gets more sleep. You know why, y'all? Because she says goodbye to him, turns off the baby monitor, and just lets them cry all day while she sleeps in.
Yep.
And neglects her children.
Yeah.
And all of their needs until about a couple hours before Jeremy gets home. bathes them, feeds them, finally settles them down, which is pretty easy, as she says, because they've already worn themselves out from crying all day long.
Oh my God.
And then and then makes dinner, and she just looks like she's got it all figured out.
She's, the perfect wife and mother.
Zero remorse, zero concern, just all about looking good to Jeremy so that she can continue to possess him.
Yep.
Yeah, it just... So. When I was reading, I was like, it couldn't possibly get worse. It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
And then, so one night, Verity has a dream that Harper... So the twins are Chasten and Harper, as we said before. She has a dream that Harper basically tries to murder or kill or successfully kills Chasten.
And at this point, she's kind of decided that she likes Chasten.
I think because of this dream and the emotional response that the dream elicits from her, she realizes, whoa, I love this child. It was deep down in there. But here it is now. I love Chasten, but I hate Harper.
Because she tried to kill Chasten.
Right. She believes that this is some sort of premonition.
Right.
To come, and that to save Chasten, the one she now finally loves, she has to kill Harper. So she attempts to do so unsuccessfully.
Yeah, because Jeremy walks in.
Yeah.
As she's attempting to put her fingers down Harper's throat and asphyxiate her.
Yes. So it's great.
Sick.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right.
So this is what we know of Verity thus far. So obviously Lowen is like, this bitch be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's at this conundrum where she's not sure if she should show Jeremy, like, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What? Because does he know? And I think that Lowen's motivations obviously are becoming more and more out of self reward as opposed to because she feels like he should know who he was married to.
Right.
Because the attraction, the flirting between Lowen and Jeremy just continues.
Yes.
To happen.
I would say all the while outside of the autobiography, back in, the present, I guess we should say. Lowen and Jeremy, become more friendly, more familiar, have moments together.
They're bonding.
Yeah. And but after each chapter, at least Lowen shares our complete horrified feeling of what we just read.
Yes. And this is setting us up. We hate Verity because she's horrible, attempted baby killer. Right. And Lowen is just Lowen.
we still, we don't know tons about her, so we do know when she gets to the house and she realizes that the bedroom that she'll be sleeping in does not have a lock on the door. It makes her somewhat uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. We later learn that is not because she's afraid of Jeremy or anyone coming into the room, but she's afraid of herself getting out of the room because she sleepwalks. Yeah. As a child, she sleptwalked, stood on the banister of her front porch, jumped, greatly injured her hand, and then walked back into the house. And that freaked her out. Yeah. Understandably so.
Sure.
But,
that's all we get of that.
Yeah, and later we even find that, it freaked her mom out to the point where her mom was then scared of her, which doesn't track for me because I do not have children. I have lots of nieces and nephews, but I personally do not have any children. But I would think if my child was sleepwalking and injured themselves, I would be scared for my child, not of my child.
Right. Right. Amongst other things, I feel like we don't know who Lowen is as a person. Yeah. Outside of
the handful of
the fact that she's a writer and she is super attracted to Jeremy, we don't really know anything about her. Right. So that's a difficult thing for me since she's the protagonist, she's the point of view character, and she doesn't have any personality happening.
Yeah, other than her, somewhat flirtatious moments with Jeremy.
Yeah. And he doesn't really have a personality either. Mm-mm. I mean, other than the fact that he's hot. We don't really know, he's hot and he's a grieving father.
Yeah. And he, in certain moments, like, he seems nice. He seems like he just wants to help, and do the right thing and all that. But, and yeah, Lowen is going through a stressful time because, as previously mentioned, she had eviction notices. Mm-hmm. She was supposed to move into a new apartment. Well, they found out she had eviction notices, so that fell through. So she had nowhere to go, but Jeremy tells her, you can stay here a little longer. You need to do all this work anyway. I would rather, it said multiple times, I'd rather you spend extra time here, really learn what you need to learn, than get back to New York and wish you would have stayed longer or wish you would have taken more information with you.
Yes, exactly. So she's staying longer. Right. And, and at this point is kind of when she starts to notice some weird things happening.
Yeah. Just a couple sprinkled things in, like the nurse says, okay, I left Verity upstairs with the radio on. See you tomorrow. And then Lowen goes upstairs and the radio's off.
Right.
Verity has seemingly not moved, but for some reason the radio is off.
Yeah.
Or the TV, whichever.
Whatever.
Whatever.
So.
And then I think one night she says she hears footsteps in the middle of the night that aren't as heavy as Jeremy and aren't as light as Crew, but she tries to just shake it off. Because obviously the more she reads these chapters, the more creeped out she is by Verity. Yes. Even though Verity is seemingly unable to do anything, she just gets a bad feeling, bad vibe, is spooked out. So she's trying to tell herself these things. She's either making up in her head or just...
she's trying to reason them away.
Right. And we have no idea what they are or what's happening. But eventually she does get a lock on her door to keep herself into her room and also, I guess, keep her out of the rest of the house.
Yeah. Because she does like the one time sleepwalk and wakes up and she's in Verity's bed.
Right. I was going to say the lock on the inside of the door does not work. She, has a bad dream and wakes up in another room, and then we find she is laying in bed right next to Verity.
Which I think is very weird, but once we get to the rest of the story, I'll talk about why it's more weird. But yeah, so and that's when she tells Jeremy, I wanted the lock because I sleepwalk, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he's like, gets the lock for the outside of the door.
Right.
And we go on.
So that she continues to stay because she was just going to go to a hotel.
She was just going to leave. And he mollifies her.
Yes.
And then, they're both night owls, it turns out. Mm-hmm. And they're up late and end up kissing on the couch.
Smooching pretty hard.
There's heavy petting happening.
But then, dun dun dun, shocker, surprise, she sees Verity standing
at the top of the stairs
behind them, looking furious with her fists clenched.
And Jeremy does not see Verity standing there.
Just Lowen does. So she's obviously freaked out. It's like, get the hex away from me. I just saw Verity. And he's like, no, that's not possible.
Yeah. And he says, I saw the scans.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Remember that there are scans, apparently. I don't know what they show other than it ain't possible.
Yeah. So he thinks that Lowen is seeing things brought on maybe by guilt.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have kissed you. I mean, but at this point, by the time that she sees Verity, I'm pretty sure that they were, like, disrobed fully. Like, maybe not full on naked, but they were, like, approaching
Shirts
naked.
Were lifted, at least.
And I'm pretty sure nipples were out. Okay.
So it wasn't like, a simple position where it was just like, oh, he was blowing an eyelash out of my eyeball.
It could not be explained away.
No, it was pretty obvious as to what was occurring in that moment.
Yes. So, I don't fully remember what happens immediately next, but it's not that much time before they actually go to the master bedroom and straight up just hook up in there.
Right. I was going to say, I think there might be like a day or two of like...
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know that... I mean, like, they might have a brief conversation of like, yeah, we shouldn't do that, but then it's like, but...
Yeah.
Even... And I can't remember if it's at this point that he says, his relationship with Verity even wasn't what he had hoped it would be. He knew there was love there, but he also hoped that it would deepen, and it never really did. Yeah. And that, Verity is in the situation she's in, and they both have these feelings. Oh, he does say that he's never, felt an instant connection with someone, the way that or maybe it was the first time in a really long time, and it was when I was in the bathroom with this woman, aka Lowen. So then they
just go ahead and do it, and she does ask him if he feels like guilty, and he's like, yeah, but not enough to not do this.
Right.
Well, you know what? Fair.
Right.
At least you're honest. You feel bad, but it's not stopping you.
Right. And Lowen, of course, doesn't feel all that bad because she knows who Verity is. She's like, this woman's awful.
Yeah, she's using what she thinks that she knows in secret about Verity to justify the fact that she's cheating with a married man, which I just don't think tracks. Listen, just because his wife sucks doesn't mean that you get a free pass. No, if you truly feel that way, y'all need to hold off until... Yeah. And until he is not married. Exactly. If you know that you have feelings for this person and this person has feelings for you, you don't just throw everything else out the window and be like, you know what? I don't care. And sleep with them. Have a conversation with them like... If it had gotten out, she's using a pen name, but if it had gotten out... Right. There goes her deal finishing the books. Yeah. And then what's she gonna do? Exactly. I mean, if he doesn't decide to take care of her. Scandal. And then she's... Yeah. Essentially screwed. And it makes me think of Gilmore Girls again, because everything does. Whenever Rory sleeps with Dean, and he's married, and she's talking to Lorelai, and Lorelai's like... And Rory says... Lindsay's not good for him. She makes him quit college and work himself to death. And Lorelai says, no, you don't get to do that. Yeah. You don't get to be the person who blames the wife for the husband cheating. Yep. And that's exactly right. You just can't do that. Nope. I'm sorry. No, you can't. People suck, yes. Yes. But Jeremy is married to her by his own free will. He's married to this monster, okay? Whether he knows she's a monster or not. Exactly. Because you know what? You don't have to marry people. Right. You just don't have to. If you didn't feel a deep connection with her, you shouldn't have married her. No. Exactly. Duh. It's like basically, aka he settled and she was obsessed with him. Exactly. So the morning after their tryst. The door from the outside is locked. Yes. Who did this? Do we think it was Crew? Jeremy thinks that it's Crew, but Lowen has other suspicions. Yeah. So obviously Lowen is like, it was Verity. Yeah. Duh. Yeah. So he's not taking any of her suspicions seriously, which I guess makes sense, right? He it's been months that Verity has been an invalid. Yes. And there's no reason he would think that she was faking. Correct. And so he's just like, stop, you're being paranoid. And so he crawls out the window. And he unlocks the door and they go on with their business and stuff. Right. So I think we forgot to mention earlier when some of the other suspicious things were happening. Crew is in his mother's room. Sometimes she hears him talking to her, which is not
weird.
And
Just because she can't respond doesn't mean that Crew can't talk to her.
Yeah, and he's 5 years old, and so, 5-year-olds in their imagination, maybe he's spending time with his mom and he's talking to her and he imagines that she's talking back.
Right.
Sure.
But he does cut himself with a knife at one point.
And this is upstairs.
Yes, this is upstairs.
In the kitchen.
Right. This is the earlier cut. There is another one to come, so.
Yeah.
He cuts himself with a knife. Lowen rushes him to the bathroom. Jeremy comes up, but then when Lowen goes back to get the knife so that Crew doesn't hurt himself again, the knife is gone.
Yeah.
So there is some random missing knife in the house in play, and actually doesn't
come back up.
If you have, well, I'll say it later. But...
Yeah, I know.
So after this, yes, he breaks the window, they get out and just kind of keep doing their thing.
Yeah.
Living their little playhouse life in the lower half of the house.
Yeah.
Well, then, Crew is sitting there eating some peanut butter, licking a butter knife, and then cuts himself
in the
yet
mouth.
Again.
Yeah.
It's almost written as if he bites down on it on purpose.
Yeah.
Or something.
It seems weird.
It seems strange, but so he cuts himself. Jeremy is going to rush him to the hospital, and it's like, hey, I can't leave Verity here alone, and this is late at night. The nurse is gone, so
right.
Lowen is expected to stay at the house.
Which is wildly inappropriate.
Yes.
That is so inappropriate on so many levels. Not only is she has no idea how to take care of Verity. She doesn't know what to do in certain situations. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know what medicine she needs.
Right.
Who to call if something goes wrong.
Right.
She's just a writer who's there. She also is sleeping with the husband of the invalid.
Who has seen, from Lowen's point of view, has seen them in a compromising position.
It is so inappropriate on so many levels. Jesus H. Christ.
Right.
So
Lowen reluctantly is like, okay, I'll stay. She runs downstairs in the basement, finds a baby monitor to put on in Verity's room. So if she does move one, she'll have proof.
Right.
Because the monitor doesn't record, but
if she sees her start to move, she can record on her phone.
Exactly. So she runs upstairs with the knife in hand, with a different kitchen knife in hand, sets up the monitor, locks Verity's door, because after supposedly seeing Verity at the top of the stairs, then Jeremy puts a lock on Verity's door.
So many locks.
And so she locks the door, runs downstairs. She's freaked out, but supposedly safe.
Yeah.
Then, after many minutes of waiting, or hours, or whatever, all of a sudden, Verity's crouched on the floor.
She's out of the bed.
On her own. Does she get her phone out in time to get a picture?
I don't think so.
And then, does she take the time after that point? Like, I don't think she gets it caught on tape in time, but she's like, I saw it. It really happened. Does she read more of the...
I don't remember the exact order of events here, but at this point, I think at this point, she has finished all of the chapters of the book.
Okay. I couldn't remember if she had finished or if she was about to, okay, while I'm here, I'm finishing this thing.
Yeah. So the conclusion of the autobiography is that we're like several years in. Chasten and Harper are like 7 years old. And Verity is like, they live their life. She's a successful writer. They have a nanny. Mm-hmm. And so the kids are like taken care of perfectly fine. She has Crew. She seems to love Crew. So she loves Crew.
Likes him well enough.
She favors Chasten and Crew and basically ignores Harper. And Jeremy's like, hey, everyone can tell that you hate Harper. And Harper notices. And so this is a conversation and whatever. It's obvious. But so then they go to the sleepover and Chasten dies from anaphylaxis from the peanut allergy. And so Verity's like, Harper did it. Because they made it a point to make sure that the family they were staying with knew all about the peanut allergy, can't have any nuts, can't blah, blah, blah. So they covered all their bases. They did their due diligence, made sure she had an EpiPen, and that the parents knew how to administer the EpiPen and all of this. So Verity is like, well, Harper had to have done something.
She had to have slipped it into their pile of snacks.
Yeah, she had to have. So,
because these kids, they went to the cabinets and they grabbed snacks in the middle of the night. No parental guidance. Like, no one was watching and making sure what they got. Exactly. The family, said that they kept those things on a higher shelf, but kids are going to climb on counters and get all the snacks. They don't, aren't thinking. It's late at night, it's a dim.
Yeah. So Jeremy is obviously devastated. Devastated by the death of Chasten. And Verity is sad, too, because she loved Chasten.
She makes note to say, I was even upset for a week or a day,
Exactly.
Some amount of time.
But then she starts clocking, like, how long it's been since her and Jeremy have had sex. And she's like, when is he going to get over it? Jesus, get over it.
Right.
And then she's like, well, she devises this plan. Well, if I just kill Harper, then me and Jeremy and crew will just be the perfect little family. And he's already maxed out on his grief. Jeremy hit maximum grief losing Chasten, so losing Harper is not...
just another drop in the bucket.
It's just not going to be that big of a deal. And he's just going to love me so much more and want to take care of me. And so she puts Crew and Harper in a rowboat in their pond. They row out and she tips the canoe, saves Crew, and lets Harper drown.
Yep.
And Lowen is reading this and she's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yes. She's like, okay, proof that she not only attempted to be an awful human being, but finally succeeded.
Yeah. Which is... it's so crazy, but she's like, what do I do with this knowledge?
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. It's like she's home alone with her. She's seen her move.
Yeah.
She's read the final bits. She's done. She's convinced this woman's faking it. She's psycho.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done.
Exactly. And so I don't remember. I think what happens at this point is Jeremy comes home with Crew, puts Crew to bed, and she tells him, I saw her move on the monitor, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, impossible. There's no way that this happened. And she's hysterical, runs upstairs with a knife, starts threatening Verity, grabs her by the leg and pulls her out of the bed. Yeah. And Jeremy's like, Lowen, you have to leave now.
Yeah. Get out.
You can't, this is unacceptable. You have to leave.
Get out.
And that is when she pulls the manuscript out of her back pocket.
Read this.
Here. And so he reads it and then he's pissed.
Beyond pissed.
And then runs up to Verity's room and is choking her to death.
Well, I think first he says,
oh, wait.
Move.
Yeah, he does.
Talk to me. Move. Or something. He's like,
yes.
Prove it. Move. Yes. If you don't move, I'm calling the cops and I'm giving them this.
Yes.
This manuscript. And he says it has to say it a couple times. And then eventually she's like, oopsie.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what she says. But she doesn't say... I mean, I think she's just like, I had to,
Yes, I think, yeah.
But, I mean, other than that, she doesn't say much. And then he's choking her.
Yeah.
And then Lowen's like, stop, think of Crew. And that's the only thing that stops him from choking her. And then after that, still Verity says nothing, doesn't move, doesn't get up, really. She just... Does she try and plead her case really at all?
I don't think so.
But so there, and maybe she's just, incapacitated from the choking. But so then they devise, well, it's more like stop, don't kill her. If you get caught, Crew won't have a father. So then it's like, well, you could, especially in her condition, you could put your fingers down her throat like she did to Harper, or try to do to Harper, and it'll look like she just
choked on her own
vomit.
Which is what they do. And they kill her.
Yep. Lowen doesn't watch, of course, but Jeremy does the deed. And then it's done.
Then it is done.
Then she concludes her writing investigation, leaves for about 5 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
They probably have the funeral or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she continues to write the books. They don't really waste any time. They get together.
Is pregnant.
Yeah, Lowen is pregnant from the first night that they slept together, which I thought was weird. After they sleep together for the first time, she notes, or maybe it wasn't the first time, but definitely one of the times.
Because it was like,
the first encounter.
Day.
Yeah, first encounter they didn't, or maybe they did, but I don't want to get graphic. Whatever. One of the times insemination occurs, and she decides
to like,
I'm gonna tilt my hips up, and I'm gonna keep this
right.
Whatever could possibly. She basically is like, I'm intending to get pregnant with this,
which is super shitty.
It's just with the situation they're in is weird. It's a weird choice.
Why would you do that?
I know. So she's pregnant. They're living their happy ever after life. No one ever suspects anything. Whatever. They're living their best lives. Them and crew and baby on the way, and they go back to the house to make sure they've got everything because they're selling that sucker. Too many bad memories,
Yeah, just murder.
Murder really puts a stain on the enjoyment of a house.
Yeah, it really does. So, and she's up in the room that Verity had been in when she was faking her injuries.
Because Crew went upstairs to go get his treasures out of the floor or something like that.
Yes, and so there's a loose floorboard in this room, and Crew had some drawings, and then Lowen found the knife, the mysteriously disappearing knife, and also a letter that Verity wrote to Jeremy, which, first of all, I just feel like it's super weird that this letter is under the floorboard here. Why would she have assumed he would look there and find it?
That's clearly where she was crouching once the baby monitor was on her.
Yes.
That's what she was doing when she was crouching on the floor then.
Exactly.
Because this letter was written after
she saw them hooking up on the couch.
Correct.
And
after we find out she locked them in the room. So it was sort of after those events occurred is when this letter was written.
Yes. So she writes this letter. It's like, blah, blah, blah. Jeremy, I know you hate me for the manuscript. That wasn't real. That was a writing exercise in order to help me be able to write from the point of view of a villain better. So I wrote this as if the opposite of what was happening in my real life. So when I found out I was pregnant, instead of writing the reality that I was overjoyed, I wrote how miserable and how much I hated it. Right? So that is her excuse for the manuscript, is that it was a writing exercise and that she did not try to kill Harper, or she did not kill Harper, and that it was an accident, and she wished he wouldn't have found the manuscript on the computer. So he already knew about the manuscript.
This is before Lowen even enters the picture. Supposedly
he had discovered it on her computer, and that her accident that caused her injuries was not an accident, but that he facilitated the accident trying to kill her.
Because of what she did.
Because of what she did to Harper.
Because we didn't mention before, but at the end of the manuscript, the quote-unquote fake manuscript, she says, she even mentions, like, Jeremy suspects me, he's questioned me, he thinks he knows that what I did to Harper. If I lose him, what's the point? I might as well just drive my car into a tree.
Yeah.
And that's how she sustains her injuries.
Yes.
So she even says, me writing the end of that manuscript was my downfall. I wrote exactly how I was to possibly die, saying how he, why would he need to be reminded of what he did or be told what he did?
Exactly.
With the car. But anyway, so she says, that's what happened. You did this accident, but I did actually recover, but I didn't want you to put me in jail, so I just pretended.
Yeah, and I was trying to get plans together and take crew,
but she had to wait for the new book money. I don't know why their current money was not good enough, but she had to wait for their book money.
Yeah, so she would get up in the middle of the night and get on the computer and set up fake new accounts for the money to go into so that she could leave with her and crew.
And she said she searched for the manuscript so she could get rid of it, to get rid of the evidence of what she, had not done, but would easily prove
that would
otherwise.
Easily, yeah.
So she couldn't find it, but Lowen found it pretty easy. But yeah, so she, was waiting for her moment, and this letter was her telling him why she took crew and and whatever. And I can look up how it ends. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it really.
She even says, I understand why you did what you did, why you tried to kill me. If you really believe that the manuscript was real and I still love you, you couldn't possibly have, if you really knew me, you couldn't have possibly believed any of that manuscript was real, but I understand you and I love you.
Yeah, basically.
Whatever.
And then...
You were the best father in the world, hands down. I love you, even still. She says, I don't blame you for what you've done to me.
Yeah, which I think is crazy. And then Lowen basically tosses the letter back in under the floor.
No, I think she rips it up and burns it, gets rid of it.
Oh, does she?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because she's like, ain't nobody gonna find this.
She doesn't want anybody to find this ever. No. And basically, they just leave the house. They've moved to one of the Carolinas. And... that's it.
Yeah. But then the question at the very end of the book becomes, let's see. I was just there. No matter which way I look at it, it's clear that Verity was a master at manipulating the truth. The only question that remains is, which truth was she manipulating?
Ooh.
So it comes into question, was the letter real?
Or was the manuscript real?
Was the manuscript real? So do you believe that she wrote the manuscript as a writing tool and none of that awful stuff really happened? She's not that person, and Jeremy just suspected her incorrectly and tried to murder her, and now Lowen's stuck with an attempted and then completed murder. Or did Verity write this? Did she really write the manuscript? It was all true. Did she write the letter as another yet manipulation? Because we find in the story, even when the cops come after Harper's death, she says it's easy to lie about what happened and how she was feeling because she's a writer.
Yeah. And
she didn't write this goodbye letter to Crew or about stealing Cruz until after she found him and Lowen together. Why wouldn't you have written this beforehand? If you had all these nights that you were able to make a bank account, you're telling me you couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
It was just, yeah.
You couldn't steal other money. You couldn't find the manuscript and destroy it and then go to the police and be like, hey, the proof. Yeah. Because then... if Lowen found it that easily, why couldn't you find it that easily? Exactly. Why couldn't you have found it, destroyed it, stolen Crew, gone to the police and been like, hey, I've been faking that I'm catatonic because my husband tried to murder me. And I just now had the chance to leave. Right. Why didn't you do that? Oh, because you still love him and you didn't want... Forget that. Yeah. He tried to murder you under a quote-unquote misunderstanding.
Right. It's just so crazy. What I found really disappointing about the ending of this book is that we find out that Verity's been faking all these injuries, but nothing happens because of it. Right? I feel, it seemed very ominous when she was standing at the top of the stairs, fist clenched, and she sees them making out. And I was expecting for her to be tormenting Lowen.
Yes.
After that.
Yes.
And
because why else would you do obvious things like turn off the radio and bring attention to yourself if you weren't trying to?
Or the time that, like, Verity is sitting on the couch in the living room and Lowen's in the kitchen and she, like, messes with, like, the sound of the TV, like, turns the sound off. Yeah. And, like, I thought we were going to get more of Verity specifically tormenting Lowen and it being increasingly worse. Like, increasingly more serious.
Yes.
And maybe even an attempt on Lowen's life.
Right.
Because we've been set up for the entire book with how obsessed and jealous Verity is. Mm-hmm. And if she's jealous enough for Jeremy's love that she's willing to attempt to give herself an abortion, of course she would be jealous enough to attempt to kill some girl she doesn't know.
Right. But if she did that, then we wouldn't be left with the question of if the letter was real. Or the manuscript was real.
Yeah. Yes. It just didn't seem like a payoff at the end. No. That you are built up to this. You are given clues. By the time you are confirmed that Verity's faking, you've already known it for a while.
Right. And why wouldn't she argue or fight more once she got figured out?
Yeah, she's been found out. So freak out, kill.
Grab your little knife from the, under the floorboards, or I would assume maybe you were keeping it to keep yourself safe in case something happened. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah, attempt to kill Lowen and Jeremy and then go back to, or steal Crew and run away. Do something more interesting.
Right.
It just petered out at the end.
Yeah.
Like, the twist was barely a twist. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the twist was intended to be she killed Harper, or that she's faking her injuries, or that Jeremy actually knew about the manuscript, or that Jeremy's the one who tried to kill her. I don't know which one of these is supposed to be the twist.
I think the twist is supposed to be none of the manuscript was real. I think that is supposed to be the twistiest twist of all the twists.
Right. Which I just think is honestly a cop-out and a little bit lazy.
Yeah. Because
of course the manuscript is the real story and not the letter. Because whenever she's describing killing Harper, when they're in the canoe and she tips it, she grabs Crew and says, "Hold your breath." Mm-hmm. And that is never disproved by Jeremy when he reads it.
Right.
And the reason he suspected Verity in the first place is because Crew told him.
Right.
"Mommy told me to hold my breath before we tipped the canoe."
Right. And Verity's like, "He's confused. I told him as the canoe was tipping."
Yeah. There's so silly.
There's no flippin' way that you would not try to grab both of your children.
No.
Especially if you knew, because Harper supposedly can't swim.
Exactly.
You knew she couldn't swim. Why wouldn't you snatch her first? Exactly. You couldn't find her because she got caught in the net underneath.
And also, if you're thinking about this, like, they went out there, neither Crew nor Harper had on life jackets, which is one of the first questions. And she said they were so excited they didn't want to wear them. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about a parent who just lost a child.
Yes.
Due to
an accident. Whether she believed that Harper did it or not.
Exactly. So if we're operating in the manuscript is fake, wouldn't this parent be overly cautious? Mm-hmm. We're going out in the canoe. Mm-hmm. Canoes are notorious for tipping over. It's me and 2 children, and I don't have any help. They definitely, and I know I know Harper doesn't know how to swim. They're going to wear life jackets.
Well, and even in the manuscript, she says, she's like worried that Harper's in like the air pocket under the boat. So that's something she is well aware is possible. So if you don't have time to save both of why wouldn't you put Crew in the air pocket under the boat that there possibly could have been? I mean, assuming that let's say the manuscript's fake, but she wrote the manuscript so she knows this fact because she's the one that came up with it. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you put your kid in the pocket under the boat and then go look for the other one, and then all of you are just, "Crew, hold on to the boat while I look for Harper."
Yeah.
You've got arms. You're not an infant.
Flip the boat back over, toss him in. He's only like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And grab the other one.
It's just
so hard to believe that.
Right.
accidents happen, obviously, but in this scenario, it's just, there's no question in my mind
that was the chair.
Yeah. That the manuscript is reality in the letter.
No.
It's just, there's
too many holes.
There's too many holes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the letter didn't need to occur.
That was just a last stab at
Jeremy's
possible happiness with Lowen.
Yeah. And it was unnecessary. It didn't add. It actually kind of took away from the rest of the book, I felt like. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that there was that much to take away.
But I agree with you. I feel like the torture of Lowen should have been more, like, severe or whatever. Like, you know, and then there should have been more of a fight on Verity's part. Because whether she was faking or not, I don't believe that a psycho woman or an innocent woman would have just laid there in that bed after she was found out.
Exactly. No.
I mean, I guess she might have been incapacitated after being choked, but even still, for her to just be like, what? And then for him to it's just...
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like, especially because we know that Jeremy had already discovered the manuscript, likely. And
that's if you believe the letter.
I think, that's true. But, so I just feel like his impulse control is so silly here. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, sure, in your instant, like, reaction, you are trying to choke her out, and then Lowen's like, hey, stop. Yeah. I don't understand why the next thought process for Lowen is, don't choke her, they'll know you killed her, let's make her throw up and then choke on her own throw up.
Right.
Why wouldn't they just call the police?
Right. Because if they're, like you pointed out to me, I think the other day, the brain scans. How can the brain scans say that she's got the brain of a child, but she's perfectly fine?
Yeah, that was another, like, wild plot hole that I just could never get over. Because the nurse talks to Lowen and tells Lowen about Verity's condition with authority, and a nurse is usually science-minded.
Yes.
So I'm guessing the nurse has medical charts, and Verity has to go to the doctor often. I think there's even a part in the book where the nurse takes her to the doctor. So she's going to the doctor, and Jeremy says, I've seen the scans. Right. She's not faking.
Right.
But
did she recover? But even still...
I mean... it just is so wild to me that there was seemingly medical authority that diagnosed Verity with, they don't use the term traumatic brain injury, but that's what that would be. Yeah. So she's clearly been fully diagnosed medically and would have a neurologist that sees her and monitors her progress. Yeah. You can't fake a scan, and you can see TBI on a brain scan.
Yeah.
Why? What is the explanation? And some parts of the brain, when you have traumatic brain injury, your brain does not heal.
It can't heal, yeah.
That's... Yeah. TBI is chronic. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And, like, I have a cousin who was in a car accident, 16 years ago. And he got, I think it would technically be considered traumatic brain injury, but he still, like, has his faculties, right? He can still walk and talk and everything, but he's permanently altered.
Yeah.
Like, he's an entirely different person.
Yeah.
After the accident. He was in a coma for, like, 2 weeks and then woke up and had to relearn everything. But I grew up with him, and the Logan from my first 15 years of life and the Logan after the accident, they're not the same person even remotely.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Wildly different. And so, having personally experienced someone in my family with traumatic brain injury, there's literally no way that this is possible.
Right. Right.
I mean, she could have skewed it to be more of a mental health problem.
Right.
And that would have been, like, a little more believable.
Right.
She's just lost both of her children.
Right.
Blah, blah,
right. It's a mental health issue, not a physical issue.
Exactly.
And even if a part of me thought maybe they said that at one point in the book, but even if they did, Jeremy still says, I saw the scans. So either way they're contradicting themselves, whether they've said it or not. It's like, it's wild. But
it's the silliest. It's so silly.
But I guess we're supposed to be placated that the two characters that we were supposed to like throughout the book ended up together as a happy family.
Yeah, I didn't care about it at the end. I don't know that... It's been a very long time since I cared less about two main characters. I will say, in all honesty. There was nothing there to care about.
Yeah. They would give you nuggets of something that you'd be like, ooh, that could be interesting, and then they wouldn't dig any deeper.
Yeah.
And I think my only connection to Lowen where I kind of thought I liked her was simply because she was reacting horrified to the thing that I was reacting horrified to. So it's like, yeah, she gets it. But I mean, other than that,
yeah,
we don't know them. So then, yeah, it's like you don't even know enough to suspect, like, well, I believe the letter because Jeremy is a psycho. There's nothing to kind of push us either way, but we're just supposed to be happy, I guess, that they're out from this woman's thumb if you believe that the manuscript is true and not the letter. You're supposed to be happy that these two people ended up together. And then if it's not, you're like, whoopsie, they oopsed, but at least they're happy together. So
yeah, it's just it's so strange to me. And I didn't love, I think the writing style, it was easy to read, but it wasn't particularly lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like gorgeous prose.
Yes.
But I just could never get over none of the book was particularly great for me. I
think it had potential that just wasn't realized.
I think the idea of the story is interesting.
Yes.
I always find it a little cliche when a writer is writing about a writer.
And then there's another writer.
And she's like co-writing. I think that is like kind of a cop-out a little bit.
Kind of funny.
Like you're writing a character that does what you do as a profession. Okay. So, but that's whatever. I need to bond with the main character.
Yeah.
In order for me to be invested. I need to bond with the main character, and I need a reason to root for them. I was never rooting for Lowen because there was nothing to root for.
Right.
I mean, sure, she wanted Jeremy from basically the instant
minute one
she met him. But I never understood why she was borderline agoraphobic. I mean... why she was so panicked about doing press. Never understood that, really. Didn't get any information about her family or...
what caused the sleepwalking.
I thought we were going to get information about Lowen, that she was, like, trying to keep close to the vest, that she didn't want anybody to know, like, a traumatic history, some abuse, maybe, that caused sleepwalking, or... that maybe in a sleepwalking state, she maybe attempted to kill her own mother. Yeah. And that's why her mother was so fearful of her, or something like that. I thought her background was going to come up more and be more interesting. Yes. And it just didn't. Yeah. I thought we were going to get more from Verity, that she was going to be creeping around the house at night more.
More drama with
more
that.
drama.
Yes, exactly.
Nothing from that. And I think the ending would have been more satisfying if it would have been them discovering that Verity was not actually injured and she was perfectly fine, and they turned her into the police. Because if we're supposed to root for Verity and Jeremy, then fully vindicate them.
Right. Would that have tanked the book sales, though? Because we can't be having them destitute over here.
I think...
I say that sarcastically. Not that he couldn't have gotten his own job and she could have written her own story based on what happened to them.
Right. Everything is fodder for the creative mill.
Right. So, yeah, I wonder that, too. Why didn't they just turn her in?
What?
2 against 1. You could have easily detained her and... Because if she was faking it, they would have done skins. Even if she was still faking, they would have been like, no, we both saw her. And read this. Her admission letter.
Yeah.
Jail her up.
And, you know, at this point, they've proven it. You know, they've both seen her, and they would take her to the doctor and put her in a situation where she would be forced to walk and talk. Maybe, you know, it would happen.
Right.
And, you know, if the couple we're supposed to root for makes this discovery and could just as easily just call the police and wrap everything up.
Just like if the letter was real, why didn't she snatch the manuscript, snatch her child, and go to the police?
Yeah. It just doesn't
she had the ability to creep around.
And why fake it from the beginning if the manuscript was fake and he did try to kill her? Yeah. Why fake it from the beginning?
Right.
When you wake up, be like, my husband tried to kill me. He set this up.
Right. I think her argument to that was that he would have just gone, but look, this is proof. She said it.
Yeah. She would have just had to get her hands on it first.
Right. Which, if Lowen did, surely she could have. She said she looked all over, but clearly she didn't look hard enough in her own dang office that she worked in every single day. Yeah. It's just, you have to suspend reality so many times to get to this conclusion. Yeah. I just don't understand. I agree. So you know, I have a lot of the things that I like on Goodreads so I can keep track of what I read and what I want to read, and you cannot give half-star reviews on there, but I certainly would have given it at least a 2.5 if I could have, because I was just so divided. Even while reading the book, I couldn't decide if I liked it or not. So it'd be about a 2.5 on Goodreads for me, if that was possible. I ended up having to give it a 3. Yeah. But after this discussion, I'm even more convinced that it should be less. Yeah. I gave it 2 stars. I was tempted to do 1 star, but I gave it 2 strictly for the page turnability. Yes. It was. That's what's crazy about it. It was very page turn. Yeah, I think it's the constant expectation of something coming. Yes. Which is very compelling. Yes. It's just that my expectations were constantly let down. Yes. So that's my real grievance here. I could have accepted all of the other things that I complained about if I would have gotten some payoff with Lowen's background and Verity being more malicious in her faking, or finding more proof that Jeremy was actually make it more interesting. You know, maybe he's the villain, wacko spouse instead of Verity. Like maybe he was, because it comes out he originally says that Verity was a fan of Lowen's books, and that's why they approached her with this offer. But turns out he had read Lowen's books and really liked her writing. So he had his eyes on her from before they met. Yes. So maybe he was a weird, gross stalker and had stalked her for weeks before. As a replacement for his broken wife. Exactly. He watched her while she never left her apartment. She took care of her ailing mother, and he felt a kinship because he was taking care of his invalid wife. Oh, man. You know? Make it more interesting. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, these are just spitballs. Colleen, if you wish to revise, please contact me. You can send any correspondence to our Gmail from the top of the hour. Right. Now, we're not saying we're amazing. Like, clearly it was a New York Times bestseller. I feel like there's a lot of books that are New York Times bestsellers. I don't know what the requirements are to be on said list. Yeah. But if you like this book, we are in no way trying to tell you that you're silly for liking it. You are absolutely 100% to be madly in love with this book. Sure. We just aren't. Do you, babes? Yes. Do you, babes? So sorry. It just wasn't the greatest. It just wasn't for us. And it's not because, they read Pride and Prejudice and they're snobby. No. It's just, absolutely not. Yeah, I've read many books that I absolutely love. It just didn't work out for us. Exactly.
Exactly. Like we said, if she would have just delivered on more of the suspense factor, we would have boosted the appeal.
Yes.
For me.
For
and
sure.
for us as a collective.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
So that's gonna conclude our coverage of Verity. If you haven't read it and you want to read it because you want to know what we're talking about, please do and let us know how you feel.
Yes.
If you really loved it and you want to defend some of the things that we hated, also please email us.
Yes, we would. I would love to see. Prove me wrong.
Yes.
Please prove me wrong.
Please at least give us something
to think about.
Yeah, I will consider any of your counterpoints.
Yes, absolutely. And, rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yes. And next week we are going to be covering A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey. I have not yet read this, but Whitney has read this.
Yes, I actually have listened to the audiobook, so I am giving it another listen in preparation for our next episode.
Yes. And in case, I don't think we talked about this in our first episode, but reading is reading, you guys. Some people want to diss on an audiobook, but I'm going to say books finished is books finished, whether you're reading it physically on a Kindle or if you're listening to it. So,
yeah. Paper, screen, your earbuds, we don't care.
Yeah.
Consuming books is consuming books.
Yep. You've consumed the exact same material as anyone else who's reading it physically. Yep. So, you know the story just like they do.
Yep.
It's the same. Reading is reading.
Yes, exactly.
So that's for next week, and we'll give Dakota his due on the artwork as well. His contributions.
We appreciate Dakota.
It was a collective effort. So, and until we meet again, be suspicious.
And also, read books.
Ooh.